And welcome to the Anatomy of a Realtor, where we are building beautiful realtor physiques one exercise at a time. And I'm your personal trainer, Myke Seeler. And today we are working out our bicep muscles, which represent community involvement. And I am joined by a very special guest, Charlene Mike, who has been in the fundraising, community involvement, nonprofit sphere for probably the better part of her career working life. She's been with Easter Seals Canada for 21 years, and prior to that, she was also with other nonprofit charitable organizations. So I'm going to allow Charlene to introduce herself and tell me about some of the big projects going on at Easter Seals Canada right now.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you for having me. This will be fun. I have been with Easter Seals, and actually, it's Easter Seals Ontario. Easter Seals Canada is our national brand, but I work for the province of Ontario. And strictly, my area starts at Highway 7. I go all the way up to Huntsville, which includes Collingwood, Wasaga Beach, Barrie. And then I flip over and take a quick left from Collingwood, and I come into Owen Sound, Port Elgin, and Southampton.
And
And
that's how we know each other.
that's how we know each other because I think your office was, I'm going to say, fourth or fifth this year. I'm not exactly sure on the numbers for supporting kids with physical disabilities.
So good.
Our projects coming up is we do a lot of Easter Seals does a lot of big projects. We don't not do the small ones, but for us, it's about going into a community and creating as much awareness and raising as much funds as we can so we don't go back 4 or 5 times and have the expense of going back 4 or 5 times. So most of our events are big undertakings. So coming into your community right now is our Celebrity Hockey Classic in Port Elgin, which again, you guys are part of. And those are big events for us. We run 10 of them across Ontario to the tune of close to $2 million last year.
Wow, that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want to do for this particular interview is I want to try to help realtors understand the value of being part of fundraising initiatives. I want to kind of pick your brain and see how realtors can get involved in their community, and then just kind of get some testimony as to how you've seen realtors benefit, because you've worked with a lot of realtors in helping do these fundraising initiatives. So what I want to ask you is to step outside of your Easter Seals role for a moment and just be in the role of someone who's has so much experience in that sphere kind of thing. And so pretend you're retired, and I'm a young realtor, and I came up to you. Maybe I'm your son. I'm not old. I'm too old to be your son, but you can pretend. And I'm just saying, you know what? I've heard that it's good that I get involved in doing fundraising and getting involved in my community. Can you give me some tips as to how do I get started in there? And then after that, we're going to get into ideas on types of fundraisers. But how do I just get started in getting affiliated with an organization, and what would that look like?
Well, the interesting thing is, Mike, and I gave some thought to this when you had asked me to do this. A realtor's role and a fundraiser's role are not very much different. We're just selling different products. That's the first
Right.
thing. Because for a realtor, they need to develop a network. They need to develop relationships. They need to be able to get their name out there. And they get their name out there by relationships, by their core values, on who they are, standing by their name, standing by the company that they're with. That is how a realtor becomes successful. It's going to events, it's passing out your business card,
Right.
it's again creating relationships. Well, that is the very same thing as a strong fundraiser. That's what I need to do. I need to build relationships. I need to be that person that people trust. I need to be that person that networks in the right directions, whether I belong to a BNI group, or I belong to a Rotary group, or whatever I'm doing in the community, whatever I'm doing around me. It's all about relationships. So for fundraising and for realtors, we both have to do the very same thing. All that changes is our end. So in your field of realtors, the more they get their name out there, the more people talk about them, the more pieces of property they're going to get to sell, the more houses they're going to sell, the more they're going to be in demand, the more people are going to want to be around them. For Easter seals, if or any charity, if you're getting your message out there properly, you're networking properly, and people understand who you are and what you're doing, it's all about relationships. So
Mm. Hey,
we
that's
have.
so good because I never even really put those two together. And that's so good that if a realtor wants just hands-on experience on how to do their job, go and affiliate yourself with a fundraiser, and chances are you'll be able to work with somebody like Charlene who has a ton of experience, and you're going to learn a lot of those hands-on skills that you need to be a realtor. So I mean, right out of the gate, if you're watching this and you've just finished school and you're becoming a real estate agent, you want hands-on experience on all the skills you need to be a realtor, go in and volunteer, help a fundraising charity like Easter Seals to raise funds, and you're not only going to get all the skills, but you're going to gain a lot of connections, and that's ultimately what part of the reason why we do what we do is we're trying to be lights in the community, but we're trying to stir up connections, grow our sphere of influence, and ultimately sell real estate.
Well, and it's
So hopefully
interesting.
we can give some of that money back.
You want to sell real estate, and so and I'm selling feel goods. There's a difference there, right? So I don't have a product to sell. I have nothing to sell. I just have to make you aware of what the charity does, whether it's mine or anybody else's. And I have to try to get you to understand who we are, to want to make a difference with the charity that you've now decided to support. So if your realtors put a goal for themselves and say, I'm going to sell 5 houses this year, and this will net me a revenue of X amount of dollars. And this is what I'm going to do this year. And the first thing is having that goal. It's the very same thing for me, except my goal comes from your communities. So my goal for Easter Seals this year is $1.7 million. And I'm only selling feel good, right? So
Hmm.
I have to get my message across, why I'm better than any other charity in the area, in the sense of why you need to support Easter Seals, which is the same as what your agents do. So your agents are trying to get people to understand why being a part of Century 21 is better than being a part of somebody else. I'm doing the very same thing with my charity. So I
Right.
have to make sure that I'm giving the proper messaging, and I am teaching people why it's good to be a partner with a charity. So we don't want you to be, and it's the very same thing as realtors, Mike. I don't want you to be a one and done. I don't want you to come to one of my events and then you leave the next day and nobody knows who you don't even know who I am. You don't know what we've done. You just had a great time. It's the same thing as selling a house. You don't want to sell a house to mom and dad. You want to sell a house to mom and dad, and maybe when mom and dad's parents start to change and they're now going into a condo or assisted living, you want to be have made that good of an impression that they want you to sell their parents' house, and now when their kids grow up, they want you to sell their kids' house. So
Totally.
that's the kind of relationship you want. It's the same
Yeah.
as me. I want a partnership. Charities want
Hmm.
partnerships. We
Yeah.
don't want
Because
ones.
yeah, the bulk of the work is done up front, and then if you can maintain that relationship, then it's repeat business both for us and for you. It's a lot easier to make that return phone call than it is, a brand new. And I mean, I just got approached yesterday at the gym, and it was actually 2 days ago at the gym by a local lacrosse, asking me if I would consider supporting jerseys, and I had to really think about it because as business owners, we get approached all the time, and as a business owner, I tend to think either I have a personal passion for something or I think about what I get out of it. And unfortunately, that's just a reality. Like
Mhm.
I sponsor the local soccer league, and I get for the same price that the lacrosse was pitching me. The soccer league, I have my company name on every jersey. I have my own team, right?
Mhm.
Whereas the lacrosse one is like, well, you got your logo on one player's shirt, and I was like, like I don't, my kids don't play in lacrosse. I don't have a passion for lacrosse. And I just had to tell them, I'm sorry, but I have to, pick my charities of choice and that sort of thing. So
And that's the hardest part, being in the charity world. But again, it's no different than being in the real estate world, because how many real estate agents are out there? How many charities are out there? How many cold calls
yeah,
are being called? So again, it goes back to, what relationships have you created and what kind of loyalty have you built that people. So I want to be in a room myself, which is the same as a realtor, when people say, I know her, I know the charity that she works for, I know that she's being honest and upfront with me. I know that my dollar is going to the best value that it can. I know that because she's proven it to me. And it's the same thing. And I would say now, if you said to me, what would be the most important lesson that a real estate agent could learn? I would say go back to school and take a night course in any fundraising or event and learn about relationships, or public relation, whatever can teach you about a relationship. Because if you can't build a relationship, you can't stay in either one of our businesses. And that's how I mean, they're very mirrored to be the very same. Because you I stand in a room and I talk about who I am and what I do and what difference you're going to make. So I have to look at myself in the mirror, and I need to know that everybody in the room is hearing my message. Because the expense, you just talked about a soccer team. So the expense of putting your name out there, you need to make sure that you're getting the best value for your name and your business as you can. I have to do the very same thing for Easter Seals. So when I'm at an event, and you've paid for dinners, you've paid for tablecloths, you've paid for everything that you have had to pay for, I have to ensure that at the end of the day, that everybody in that room has understood why I'm there and what I'm doing for the community and what I'm doing for the kids in their community. It's the same as your realtor, right? They have to be standing for something as well. So again,
totally.
we mirror a lot.
Hmm. Very cool. Yeah, that's kind of an unexpected turn for the idea of this talk here, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that you've brought that parallel into picture. So, let's turn to, like, I mean, you've done so many different fundraising events. Uh, what's the most what's the one that stands out the biggest for you? What was the biggest one that raised the most money? What was the one you had the most fun at? Like, give me some ideas, different events you've done in the past. Maybe the one that was the most fun raised the least amount of money. So it does, like, they don't necessarily all have to be the same one, I guess. But
What interesting, when I first started at Easter Seals, so I'm going to go back like 21 years ago, and the average staff member was bringing in $5, $6, $7,000 an event, and that was a lot of money. Well, I brought an event to Easter Seals in Barrie that nobody had ever heard from before, and it was going to get a gross revenue of $25,000. And everybody in provincial office was, they don't make that kind of money in the field, and can she do this? And I was relatively new. And I brought an event to Barrie called Hot Night in the City. And what it was a fashion show with all the Barrie firefighters. And we
ooh,
choreographed them on a runway, and we had sound and music, and our theme one year might be country, or their theme might be rock. And the guys would come out dressed in country clothes and rock clothes, and then we'd have the models that would do, and we would put, I'm not kidding, 1,000 women in one place, and we would have restaurants on board giving out samples of food. We'd have alcohol. We had the firefighter calendars, right? We had a trade show with it. That was probably one of the funnest events that we had. It really kind of solidified myself in Barrie, because it was like, wow, like I kind of went in with a bang, right? Um, but I think if you asked me, fundraising is whatever anybody wants it to be. And sometimes it's not what my passion is. Sometimes in our field, we have what's called third party events. And sometimes a company or a person is doing an event, and we show up and we support the event, but it's not our event. But for our events, Like I love our Dancing with the Stars. This year I've got 3 of them happening, and we take leading citizens in the community and we pair them with the dance studio, and they come to a gala and they dance. So this year the theme is disco, right? So they're coming into their dancing discos. The hockeys are great events for me. You know what? I don't think I have anything that I dislike or I don't like. They all, because they're all different niches. You can't do the same thing because it doesn't work for everybody, right? So every community is different, and you got to look
Right.
at population and demographics. Um, the Conn Smythe dinner in Toronto, I mean, that is a staple with Easter Seals, and that's not my event, but it's something I get to attend. And you imagine that event was started by Conn Smythe himself. So you talk about relationships, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto Sports World, they still come to that event after over 60 years. Like,
Hmm.
we are 100 years old. You don't get to be 100 years old without doing something right, but also without having the need in the communities. And I think that um, again, it's like being a small business. You need to look at all that. What's your niche? Where are you going to go? You know, do you specialize in cottages? Do you specialize in farms? What are you good at? What needs to be done in your community? It's the same as fundraising. It's what are you good at? Like some people can't do
Hmm.
all the logistics, right? So you take your skill level and you do the best you can. But I think my favorite events, Myke, are the ones that put a whole bunch of people in the room, just feel that. You just feel it in the room, right? And everybody's happy and they're having a good time, and you feel strength off people. And when people leave that night and they say, I didn't know about your charity until tonight, then that's a win for me because I've done my job.
Cool. So good. So good. So the firefighter one that you did you hit your $25,000 goal?
We made more than that, and it ran for 10 years until the
Really?
unions decided that alcohol and firefighters in the cities weren't always such a good idea, and the whole world changed. So, yeah, it went for 10 years, and it did put us on the map, and women still talk about it. They said, I love that event.
Yeah. Well, you could bring it back. I think something that's trending now are alcohol-free kind of like beverages that I forget what they call them, but like just mock-up beverages, like
Well, the
and
problem is you gotta have a little bit of alcohol in your body to walk down that runway with 1,000 women. So, and the
right.
1,000 women are gonna have the alcohol there to yell and scream and cheers. So, you know what? There is times that events have run their course. Like you take what you can from them,
Yeah.
and they've run their course, and that's
Yeah.
okay too. And you have to be smart enough to realize that not everything lasts forever. It's a trend.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so now you're talking to a brand new agent, and the first kind of advice I gleaned from what you were saying was try to identify some of the major needs in your particular community.
Hmm.
Because you could be personally passionate about something, but it may not be a strong need in the community, and you could just be kind of treading water. Like, if I'm passionate about, like, my mom's deaf, maybe I'm passionate about,
Hmm.
the deaf community, but there's two deaf people in all of Owen Sound. Like, it's not going to, carry much weight, right? So get passionate about something that's a need in your community,
But then
and
I would
then,
also look, Myke, that if you're in the real estate business, then you need to be dealing with families. So you can break down what your need needs to be in the community. So what's happening with families in your community? So what families are needing? And it doesn't have to be anything you're going to get business from. It's the people that you're going to meet that are supporting too. So I've often said, a lot of times it's great for the real estate people to get involved with food banks or helping the homeless, right? Because that's a need in the community. And you're about building families and building homes. So if I was a realtor and I was coming into a community, I'd be looking at, I would definitely do soccer teams or do hockey teams and baseball teams because that's a fun thing. But if I had to give my time, and we're not talking money, we're giving time because a lot of time agents first starting out don't have that budget to be able to give. So start giving your time. When I first started with Easter seals, I met a lot more people volunteering. I volunteered for the food bank. I volunteered for the Out of the Cold program, where I would spend a night in a church and I would feed the homeless at night and I'd feed the homeless in the morning. And that was for me personally, it had nothing to do with Easter seals. It was just going on in my life at that time. I recently became a widow. And for me, it was very important to give back. So I learned what my community was, and I met people there, and I don't, they didn't necessarily help Easter seals, but they helped me become a better person. So find out what you can do in your community to make a change, and find out where the network starts. And it's always a great conversation. You can be anywhere and say, yeah, I volunteer for that, or I've been a
Mhm.
part of that. And I think that whether it's a realtor, whether it's a councilman, it doesn't matter what you are, people want to be a part of somebody that's looking after their community. People
Mhm.
want to be a part of somebody. And I always encourage realtors, I encourage small businesses, make sure you have a community page on your website, because people are looking for that. And make
Right.
sure that your community page is a clip and it shows what you've done. Because if you're going to be supporting me, I want to know that you're supporting where you live. It's not all about take, it's about giving back. And we
Right.
all have to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And just to give you a real life example of how that what Charlene said is 100% spot on. Before I say this, like you guys have just received the actual number one volunteer opportunity in every community, every across the world, and that's dealing with homelessness. And I would add to that addictions. I mean, they almost go hand in hand in each community. A lot of homeless people are dealing with that. Not all homeless people. I don't want to blanket that statement, but get involved in the food banks and the shelters, and don't worry about. You're not trying to meet your clients there. That's not what it's about. But to give you a real life example, before I started Century 21, I got involved in a nonprofit organization that was just near and dear to me. It was an organization that had to deal with addictions, taking men off the street. It was a home that was being built to give them shelter and a long term stability program. And within 1 year, I mean, the home wasn't even open yet. Within 1 year, I did 5 transactions within my board members, and I never went there for real estate. I never talked about real estate, and you just build a relationship with people, and they wouldn't use anybody else. You
Yes.
connect with people on a heart level, and they just you become so much more important to them than the number one marketing agent in your area and all that. So you really
About trust.
bypass. Yeah, it's all about
It's
trust
all
for
about
sure.
trust,
So
and how it's how the community perceives you, right?
yeah.
Your community sees you as somebody that's going to be a part of the community and support their community, and they know that, especially if you're a realtor, if you're looking after the community that I'm thinking about purchasing in, then I know I'm in good hands. And that's what we want, because as you just said, Myke, I mean, the marketing dollars, the social media, the Facebook, everything is out there and everybody is looking at it. But they're also looking at how real people are, because I laugh at somebody. They said, "Oh, my daughter just started a new boy with a new boyfriend." So I asked her if she put it on Facebook, so we knew it was real. And I just started to laugh because people
Mhm.
post everything on social media. And sometimes you look and say, is it real? Is it not? But you're following people. You're saying, you know what, they're out there and they're doing good for the community. And that's when we all do good, then we work well together. And again, relationships are being built, and you're built on trust, and you're built on who you are. And I remember my grandmother telling me a long time ago, and I was just a teenager trying to figure out life and everybody else. So my grandmother said to me, she'd call me Leanie. She never called me Charlene. She called me Leanie. She said, Leanie, at the end of the day, you need to look in the mirror and you need to make sure that you're the person that you want to be that day. And I've never forgot that. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to look in the mirror and say, like, I've done the best I can for the people around me. And we all
Mhm.
need to do that. And when we do, everybody becomes successful.
Yeah. So good. So good. Okay, so final question for you, Charlene. You're
Yep.
in Florida now on
Yes.
vacation. I hope Easter Seals knows about that and I'm not blowing your
Oh, no,
cover.
they know.
Oh, they know about it. Okay, so now you're out and about, you're at the grocery store, you're at the poolside, and a young realtor comes up to you, and so there's not an Easter seals in Florida, and what advice are you giving them to just go because they're nervous and they're just like I mean I know the need in my community, but what do I how do I get started? Who do I go and talk to? How do I get started with volunteering in the community or starting a fundraising idea?
I think if you're looking to getting volunteering in your community, you look to see what the need is, but you look to see what your passion is. Don't do the volunteering because everybody says this is what you should do. You
Right.
volunteer because you want to make a difference, right? You want to be a part of something that feels good for you. And once you, and it can be anything. You could be at the library one day a week reading to preschoolers that are coming to the library because you have a half an hour a day, right? And that's all you might have because maybe you're a mom and you've got two kids at home yourself and you're just breaking into the business and this is what you've got. So it doesn't matter what you can do as long as you can do something. And you have to take a look at the time that you have to give. But I would say that you need to do something because you need, if you're going to church, maybe it's assisting with your Sunday school class because you're already there.
Mhm.
Maybe as a parent, your child's playing soccer, your child's playing baseball or hockey. So maybe you commit to keeping the score every game. Can you imagine going to the arena and all of a sudden you've got 14 parents that are your friends because they don't need to go to the clock every single game. There's somebody there doing the clock. It doesn't have to be something grand. It can be a small step to start yourself into the community and you become a coach. I was a coach in Dundas for 26 years. I was one of the first female baseball coaches. And actually, my kids, I've been gone from there for 30 years now almost. And my kids drive by this baseball diamond, has my name on it. And my kids are so proud. They take their kids there and they say, that was named after grandma because she was such a great baseball coach. Well, when I started to be a baseball coach, working with the food bank or working with the other co-program was the furthest thing from my mind because my kids were small. I picked something that I could do and to still be involved with my kids. So it's at the time of your life that you're at as well that you got to say, how do I make this work? Well, I make this work because this is what I'm doing anyways.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? That is so good, and it actually makes me think that I always talk about realtors earning your stripes and as real estate agents, but you actually earn your stripes as a community as a community person. And so, like when you start off by keeping score at that soccer game, you're going to be recruited for
Yes.
another opportunity, right? People will be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, you showed up every week. Would you consider being on a board for this?" And you start to move up the ladder of being board of directors and for different organizations that you can't just walk into if you tried, and then all of a sudden your name is on the baseball diamond or being splashed around. So yeah,
Well,
good
we
for you.
laugh
That's
because when you're talking about, your name, it's interesting because we also have bad volunteers too. So again, you can become a bad volunteer with a reputation real quick, right?
yeah,
So you know what? It's like it's the same as you tell your agents, Mike. I bet you when you hire them, it's like you need to show up, be up, show up. And it's the same thing if you're going to volunteer. Don't say you're going to volunteer and you don't show up. We do the 50-50 at the Barrie Colts games. Easter Seals runs them twice a week. We've been running them for 5 years, and we get a big donation at the end of the year, which we use towards our summer camps. Well, we had a lady and her husband who wanted to volunteer. They had a small business. They thought it would be great. They could wear some of their branding and that. They never showed up. We couldn't count on them. So finally, I had to
hmm
say to them, I'm sorry, we can't use you anymore. But I want to volunteer. No, because you're calling at 5 o'clock on a Saturday night, and now we're trying to cover two people, and we can't always do it. So, no, I'm
yeah,
sorry. So, yeah, you want to volunteer, but again, it's looking in the mirror, it's your reputation. So, make sure
totally,
you find
yeah,
something you can volunteer with that you've got the time. Because, again, that's your credibility. So, if it's a real estate agent, I'm going to be like, you can't show up to keep score. you're not going to be selling my house for me because I can't
Oh,
count
dang.
on
Yeah,
you
it's a
to bring
double-edged
the,
sword. Be very careful.
yes,
Yeah,
to
and
bring the
I've actually
equipment.
been guilty of that. Like, and I love what you said. Like, start volunteering in a place you already are, whether it's
Mhm.
Sunday school or at the soccer game. You're already there. You've already committed to it.
Yeah,
Volunteer there.
yeah.
But I got recruited to do like a Meals on Wheels, and why I committed to this because it was prime time for my real estate business as a broker, and I just every time I went out, I was like it was killing me, and eventually I had to throw in the towel. They didn't have to fire me, thankfully, but I don't think they're happy that I threw in the towel either.
Yeah.
But yeah, think about your schedule and commit to things that you can commit to long term, and be consistent because that is your reputation. So good, Charlene.
And
Yeah.
that's how you're building your business. And real estate is probably one of the most difficult because even though you can be a part of a company, you're only you. So if I'm calling a real estate agent looking to buy a house and I've left 3 messages and they don't get back to me, I've moved on very quickly. And the opposite is for us. I mean, I always laugh at people. I say, you have no idea what rejection is till you try to become a fundraiser because I get told no 100 times a day. For
Oh
instance,
yeah.
our table sales in Grey Goose for the hockey, we want to sell 15 tables. I bet you I have made no less than 400 phone calls to try to sell those, and 385 have told me no. And so
Yeah.
you go back to the board, you go back to your research, you go back to all of that, and you start all over again. And you've got to be able to stay positive. Well, flipping back to sometimes what you're volunteering in, that's your why and that's your positive for the week because everything else hasn't worked out. You haven't sold a house, you haven't got a client, nobody's returning your phone calls, but guess what? I've gone on my soccer field. I kept score. A kid brought me a cookie and said, "Thank you for you. You make it. You make a difference somewhere."
Yeah, yeah. If now, if you're a realtor and watching this, and you've been approached by a charitable organization, you better treat them with the most respect. And if you cannot contribute volunteer or money, then understand what Charlene just said. She's been rejected 100 times today or this week. And I keep that in mind. Like when this fellow, the low crossing, my first response when he asked me, I said, "I'll think about it and I'll let you know." And then it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to go and tell people no, but you got to do it because it's awkward otherwise. And I'm not going to go to the gym with this guy and just be like skirting around it, pretending I forgot. Locker room this morning, he was there, and I'm like, hey, I put some thought into it, and thank them for their work because they're doing it for free. They're doing it for nothing for the most part,
Yeah.
and yeah, for sure. And funny enough, we're doing a charitable uh, um, event this May. It's called Gather, and we're raising money for Easter seals. And the amount of rejection we get, I mean, it's so discouraging. Like I'm the type of guy who comes up with an idea, I run, and if I don't succeed early on in the game, I want to throw in the towel and man, that feeling is so real. And
But
the amount of business owners we've called and they don't return your call, and they're like, "Yeah, send me an email." You email them, and they don't email you. Like 1 week later, like bump, like get that
welcome
email
to my
back up.
world. And that is every day for us. And it, I have to work like that with my team because they're just learning, right? So they haven't got the experience and I said, you know what? So we wanted to have a goal of 5 teams, so 5 tables sold in 1 week for the Grey Bruce event, and we didn't have it done. So I taught at Georgian College for about 3 years. I taught event marketing because I had some time, so I taught it. So I constantly go back to teaching methods. So on this great big I have this great big thing on my chalkboard and I wrote 5 tables not done, and I wrote the big words fail on it. And I said, what does this mean? And the girls are saying, well, we didn't get our table, so we didn't. I said, no, 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 no. This means it's a failed attempt in learning. That's what fail means, a
Totally.
failed attempt in learning. So what have we learned? Who are we asking for tables? What have we done wrong? Why do we not have success? Are we emailing and people are not sending back? Does that mean we phone them first and then we tell them we're sending them an email? Is that what we do? Are our demographics wrong? Let's take a look at why we're failing and let's figure it out and go back, right?
So good.
And they're
Yeah.
like, really? Okay, okay. So now they get it because you don't want people to feel rejected because it's horrible. Like you know what you if you were in person, you'd say, "Do I stink?" Right? Like, is there something matter with me? Why is nobody talking to me? Right? And you realize over a phone and email, it's not like that. It's just. But I would encourage people to say no. Like, if it's not what you want to do, no is an answer. It's just the same answer as yes, except it's the other way around. Tell me no, and I'm not going to email you anymore. I'm not going to phone you. I'm not going to bother you. I'm not going to
Yeah.
do anything. I'm not going to waste my time anymore because you tell me no. Right
Right.
off the bat, say no, it's not my interest. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Scratch you off your list and I move on. It's
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
selling same as trying to find new clients for real estate. If it's not, scratch them off your list, move on to the next one.
Yeah, yeah. I just closed down a business that I started as a side hustle, and as much money as I lost and as much time as I lost, it was a success for me because I look at the word fail the same way you described. It's like you can't go to school for this. Like I just earned education in my life that
Yeah,
most people will never earn because I'm willing to fail. Because to me, failure is just they're just
attempt and
learning. They're
learning.
just opportunities. And so if you really want to grow in your real estate career, go and volunteer. Be part of a fundraiser like Easter Seals because you're going to learn rejection and you're going to have coaches around you like Charlene who are going to encourage you and teach you other ways to do it. And then you're going to be able to take those skills and go and win listings. So if you got one takeaway from this, go and volunteer. It's so good. It's so important to becoming a top level real estate agent. Um, so important for your community, and yeah,
Important for you. It's important for you at the end of the day. As I said to, as my grandmother said, Leanie, look in the mirror and make sure you like what you see.
totally.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Well, thank you so much,
you're welcome.
Charlene. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me this morning. I think it's morning in Florida. We're on the same time zone in
Yeah,
Florida,
we are.
so
Yeah,
from
we are on the
Ontario.
time. And just so
So
you know, I am scheduled working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. I didn't take all of my holidays to be here. So, with our big event coming on the end of February, I need to work. But just on behalf of Easter Seals, just, you know what? Century 21 has been a huge part of our Easter Seal kids and our families. They've truly made a difference. And when I talk about difference, I talk about independence, I talk about dignity, I talk about freedom, the dignity to go to a washroom by yourself because a commode was bought. That's what Century 21 people are giving our families. So, you know, realtors for Century 21, you're making a huge difference by being part of a charity that, you know what, not a lot of people pick up on Easter seals, you know, because we don't affect everybody. Um, but the families that we do affect, the need is so great. And Century 21 looked to us instead of looking away when we were looking for help. And so, just from behalf of Easter Seals Ontario and Canada and all of our families, thank you, Myke, and thank your team for being a part of who we are.
well, thank you, and thank you for being you as well, Charlene.
Oh, you're welcome.
You have a great day, and we'll talk again.
And I'll see you in a couple weeks.
And I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. I'm going to be coaching my team. I know nothing about hockey, but I can tell you one thing: I am going to lose my voice that day because apparently it's not very competitive, but I'm
No.
competitive to the core. So we are going to win. We are going to win.
I'm going to tell you the biggest winner is the team that brings in the most money. That
That's
is the biggest winner. That's the
we're
biggest
trying
winner.
for that as well.
Take
Cool.
care.
Thanks
Thanks,
again,
Myke.
Charlene.